Welcome everyone to our webinar today on Choosing Your Path, Disclosure as an Employee. I'm Pam Anderson and I'm the National Disability Coordination Officer for Western Victoria, and I have my colleague here, Andrea.
Hi, I'm Andrea Evans-McCall and I'm also an NDCO and I cover Gippsland in Victoria.
Hi.
So today, if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat box and we'll be monitoring that and hopefully we'll be able to answer all your questions.
Lovely. So before we start, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land this webinar is being presented on and wish to pay respect to the elders past, present and future. We would also like to acknowledge the lived experience of people with disability.
Okay, so disclosing your disability or not. So this is about deciding whether you should share your information about your disability to employers. So today we're going to provide you lots of information so that you'll be able to make an informed choice. This information is going to cover, the pros and the cons of the process. Okay, so the objectives for this session is for us to define what disclosure is in a workplace setting. Also, we're going to outline the benefits and perhaps answer some of your concerns around sharing your information. We're also going to help you to be prepared to make that informed choice. Later on in the session, we're going to actually provide you, and it's already in the chat box, a PDF around a script to be able to help you practice talking about your disability and what reasonable adjustments you might require in the workplace. Also, there's going to be a whole bunch of other disclosure resources.
The main terminology we'll use today includes disclosure, reasonable adjustment, informed choice and self-determination, which we'll explain in the following slides.
So the word disclosure, what does it actually mean? It means to open up, to reveal or to tell. So when we talk about disclosure and disability, it's really about sharing your information. Love this quote. So this is really cool. I think, be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. So it's really important about you being comfortable with yourself, and you don't really want to be around people who are going to have concerns. So surround yourself with people who understand you.
Great.
All right, so we've got a few words there. Disclosure, okay, so it is a very personal choice. It's really up to you, and it should be an informed choice. So when we talk about informed choice, we talk about gathering all the information before you make the choice. All right, so we're going to empower you today to be able to find out, whether it is right for you. To disclose, you probably, if you need reasonable adjustments in a workplace, you're probably going to need to disclose to get those. So it's not necessary to tell people about your disability. There's no law that says you have to disclose, but we're going to give you more information around that as we proceed. So when we talk about reasonable adjustments, what these can mean are strategies. So that could be different things that are put in place to get rid of or lessen the barriers for you in the workplace. Modifications, when we talk about modification, it's about changing the environment. And why do? We do it so that where there's equality, so that people with disability enjoy equal opportunities to everybody else in the workplace. So just give you an example, 3 types of adjustments. So one, some examples there about changing to the facilities or equipment. It could be that, ramps need to be fitted, larger print needs to be used on documents, some assistive technology, software on computers, or it could be as simple as some checklists put in place to be able to enable you to do your job. Problem solving, so that could be just around, flexible schedules. It says they're working from home, so we're all being quite flexible in our current space. So it's interesting because this current world we're working in has been quite good for people who need those adjustments. So it also might be some special services. So it could be, a job coach, could be a mentor in the workplace, or it also could be someone like an Auslan interpreter put in place to make you able to do your job. So just explaining there, we've already touched on it. An informed choice is really about the process of making a decision after considering the relevant facts and weighing up the pros and cons. And by attending today, you've taken the first proactive choice to come along and learn about it. And as I said, we're going to provide lots more resources for you to make even more research to be able to make that informed choice.
Thanks, Andrea. So some of the pros of disclosure. So there are many pros about disclosing your disability or sharing your information, and we'll just go through a few of those now. Pros 1 to 4. So setting reasonable expectations about how you'll carry out a role. Employers, they have preconceived ideas sometimes about how a role should be carried out, together with some unconscious expectations of typical workplace behaviour. In sharing information about your disability, you can set reasonable expectations about how you'll carry out the duties of your role, and it will also minimise assumptions and decrease the likelihood of confusion or disappointment, and allows for more positive interactions. People also tend to draw incorrect conclusions about the capabilities of people with disability. So this is your opportunity to educate and transform those perceptions. You can also ask for the adjustments you require. To find employment that meets your needs, it's important to know any barriers you face and adjustments that you may require. And workplace adjustments, they do help impact your work productivity as well. So if you do have something that's going to help you work better, you can request these. But if you're not upfront about your disability at the start, well, then it can be a bit more difficult down the track. Having the conversation allows you to formulate ways that you and your employer can collaborate so that you can successfully do your job. Number 3, you can come in armed with solutions. So being transparent about your needs allows you to come in to a position with solutions. So for example, different types, as we mentioned before, of technology that may help you work better. A list of support services can be helpful for organisations if they're wanting to know further information, and have some ideas about effective workspaces that may help you work better. While it's not your job to make the workplace inclusive, coming in armed with knowledge about adjustments or knowledge about what you may need to perform better in your work, can demonstrate that you are resourceful and that you have initiative, which employers love. You present as honest, self-aware, proactive and resourceful. So speaking of resourceful, employers want to see that you're confident in your ability to handle the job and capable of asserting and managing your needs. These are skills available in any work situation. The strength, honesty and respect displayed in having conversations about this demonstrates that you have the maturity and that you're trustworthy, and that can be really enticing to employers. They love a great attitude too. So pros to disclosure. Number 5, you foster a supportive environment, and you're calling out the elephant in the room, and there's our little picture of the elephant calling out the lion. But you get to be you as well. So there's no apologies, no judgments, and it helps you to feel more comfortable in the work environment. And you also get to own your own diversity, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what matters most is how you see yourself. Being confident in yourself helps you to accept, that, others, may or may not accept you. But that is, something that if you're confident, you can actually show that, you're as good as anybody else, basically. Disclosure cons. So some of the reasons, there are a number of reasons why some people may prefer not to share information about their disability to their employer. And some of these reasons include that your disability doesn't impact your work. If your disability has no bearing on the productivity of your work, you may feel it's not necessary to disclose it. In this case, it's no different to sharing that you own a cat or a dog or a horse or whatever, or sharing any personal information about yourself. Regardless of whether others notice your disability, you're only obligated to confirm about it if it impacts your work. So one of the main reasons people inform employers is to ensure that they can receive workplace adjustments, as we said before. If you don't need adjustments or can manage these on your own, you might prefer to keep this information private. In summary, there's no legal ramifications, as Andrea mentioned before, for choosing not to share private information about your disability unless it will impact your job or affect the health and safety of the workplace. And it's no one's business, no one else's business. Your disability is your business. Sharing information with anyone, let alone a complete stranger, can be daunting and is very personal. Unless you're obligated, once again, to inform your employer, only share what you are comfortable sharing. And a lot of people don't want to be treated differently. I know I certainly don't want to be treated differently. Do you, Andrea?
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's right. So, when you talk to others about your skills and abilities, it can go a number of ways. They can become over supportive, and I've had this before, and make you feel uncomfortable. They can underestimate your capacity and patronise you, or they can treat you with the respect and autonomy you deserve, which is, the best one. Unfortunately, you don't always get to know which way it's going to go. Some people just don't want to be treated differently, and please remember that this is your right. You might lose the job. A lot of people are fearful about disclosing or sharing information about their disability, in fear that employers might say, oh, we don't really want to deal with this, and that you might lose your job. But there are laws and policies to protect against you losing your job in this case. And a lot of people are fearful that their resume, if you're applying for a job, may be thrown in the bin if you're disclosing on your resume or application. And you also, may think if you have disclosed that you might automatically flunk the interview. They may just interview for the, feel that they're just going to interview you for the purpose of interviewing. Despite it being unlawful, there is a possibility that this could happen. And to combat this, you really need to make sure that you're informed about your rights in the workplace, and how to spot inclusive employers that are open to employing people with disability. And you can do this by searching for organisations that are best equipped for this. And if you feel discriminated against at any part of the application process or within the job, we urge you to raise this with either the employer or a local advocacy group. And there's also the Human Rights Commission that you can, and Fair Work that you can, we'll go through those resources at the end. Don't be afraid to call out discrimination. In the long run, it will help you to create a more inclusive workplace. Thanks. Andrea, I think it's your turn now.
Yeah, lots of great information there, Pam. Okay.
Oh.
Cool, next slide. So self-determination. So this is something that we really talk about and try to empower young people when they're transitioning into employment, is to be a self-determined person. So that what we're talking about, that is, it's the desire, ability and the practice of directing one's own life. So often we refer to it looking at the big picture, so it's the person who you are and the person that you want to be. So some some sort of things that we see in a self-determined person is that you see all of the options. You're pretty good at solving the problems. So that's about, being able to really articulate what supports you might need in employment, and you're able to speak for yourself. And you understand those required supports. So that's why it's really important, to do that informed choice we've been talking about, to really understand where you're going. And also the bottom one there is about evaluating outcomes. And this is about sort of having that emotional intelligence that to sort of step back and not take things too personally. So a self-determined person actually really respects themselves and they accept themselves. They know who they are and they're proud of who they are, and they value themselves for who they are and what they have to offer. So it comes from that real strength-based perspective that we, think about the skills that we've got, and we are able to overcome any barriers that we may have. So, and you're really able to identify those long-term and short-term goals. So it's really about knowing who you are and driving decisions for yourself. So as I said, you understand your strengths and you can describe your strengths to others. So later on, we're going to talk about practicing a script. So it's really, again, about thinking about the things that you've got to offer an employer. But understanding your disabilities and your limitations. So you'll be able to articulate, say, if you do want to talk about your disability, saying, I do have a few little barriers, but I can understand how I can overcome. And you can also then give examples that you've used, and we're going to draw those from things you've done in education or in other part-time jobs that you have. So again, a self-determined person would choose to disclose or choose not to disclose. They've made that informed decision, and of course, know which adjustments they're going to need. We're going to do a little activity with you around a questionnaire. So we're going to put up a little poll, and this is to get you to start thinking about some of the things that, how well do you know yourself? Where do you sit on that self-determined schedule? So Pam's put the poll up there. So you can just pop in the answers to those questions.
Yeah, so I'll just give you a couple of minutes to go through the poll. And just if you could just enter in the chat box when you've done, that's great. Thank you.
All right, I think we might move along now. Probably had enough time to participate in the poll.
Okay, I think we're just waiting for one. Only had one response so far. Whoops.
All right, I think we'll move on.
Move on?
Yeah, I think we've got enough time to do it. Awesome. So it looks like we've got a pretty self-determined person there that knows how they learn best, which is pretty awesome. And I think, that really transposes into the workplace as well. And if you know how you learn, then you'll be able to articulate those things as well.
Yep. Okay, great.
Awesome.
So yeah, so looking at I suppose some of your results, like if you answered yes to most of the questions, you should be very proud of yourself. You obviously have a good sense of yourself and your disability, and it also means you're on the road to becoming a very self-determined person. Room for improvement, there's always room for improvement. All of us need to improve in some areas. So reflecting on the no's, if you answered no to any of them, you can create some short-term goals to strengthen those areas that you might need some help with. If you answered sometimes to most of the questions, that means you're very good you possess some very good skills in understanding yourself and your disability, but you have some specific areas that you need to develop. Once you've identified your strengths, so looking at the questions that you answered with a yes, you can list the other areas that may need work. Looking at the no's, prioritise them and also create some short-term goals to get some help with identifying those strengths as well. No, so don't worry, you're just starting to understand yourself and your disability. Sometimes it can be difficult to really delve in and talk about your illness or disability. Seek out people you trust and ask them to help you sort out your strengths and needs. Ask them also for assistance to develop some goals to help you gain a better understanding of yourself, and that just might be doing a bit more reading, a bit more research, or talking to other people that have also gone through the process of sharing information about themselves. Okay.
Great, thanks, Pam. All right, we've just got a couple of examples of some case studies around disclosing in the process of applying for a job. And so this example here about Tony, he actually chose to disclose earlier on in the process because he realised that he had dyslexia, and doing a lot of the job interviews, or sort of once you got past the application stage, but perhaps even before or sometimes after, you're asked to actually participate in psychometric testing, which he was actually struggling with. So he actually found in the process that it was actually really important for him to say earlier on that he was going to need some reasonable adjustments around participating in those tests, which he found most employers were quite happy to do, and they did some adjustments, and he was able to succeed in that stage. So sort of rule of thumb, a lot of the time we will advocate to people that if you're going to disclose, perhaps do it when you're sort of commencing employment or after you've been offered the job. But, there is some circumstances where it is probably quite important that you disclose a little bit earlier on in the process. The next example is Lucy, and this is a good example as well because for your reason to disclose. So originally, she this young woman, she was working as a lifeguard and she was on the pool deck, and she was needing to have a lot more breaks off the pool deck than maybe the rest of her colleagues. And so she started to actually feel that she hadn't disclosed to her colleagues why she was needing to do that. She obviously disclosed to her employer, but she felt that her colleagues were starting to go, oh, why is she getting special privileges? She's leaving the pool deck more than I do. So she actually found that she needed to actually disclose upfront to her colleagues, and surprisingly, to her surprise, that she was really impressed that they were all really supportive, and it actually just felt she worked more as a team. So that's just an example as you may choose to disclose to your workmates or not. All right, how to disclose.
Okay, so let's move on, how to do it, basically. So it's, just through research, it's come out that it's best to disclose how your disability affects your capacity to learn and perform within a workplace, and this can be something that you probably have been aware of with education as well. So you can use that, what you needed for education, to come across to the workplace. Also, the environment, supports and services that you might need. It's good to have a really good understanding of these because they can help you access, participate and excel at work, be really successful. Getting ready to disclose. So basically you're going to once again focus on your strengths, share what information that you think is relevant to the job, and certainly there could be other information that you may not wish to share, and that's fine. It doesn't impact your work. Why should you share it? And it's really about, how it may affect your work, and also what types of adjustments can be needed, and adjustments that are going to help you perform like any other work colleague, and finally, and also how it will make you a better employee as well. So really honing in on those strengths and your attitude and what skills you bring to the job.
Okay, so when to disclose. So we've already, I touched a little bit earlier on that, but basically, if you know your disability will impact your work or other people in the workplace, then, it is really important that you do disclose that when you commence a job. As we said, legally bound to share that information. All right. So it may be in the recruitment process if it is going to, really impact other people's safety. Otherwise, it's purely up to you to make the choice of what stage you apply. So, of course, we've said earlier on that you would definitely need to, if you're expecting for those workplace adjustments to happen, then you will need to talk about it. They're not going to, employers not going to, they can't read your mind. So you will need to disclose it. All right, so you might wait to tell the people around you, like we talked about Lucy's, talking about to her colleagues. You might want to wait until you've been working there for a while and you feel comfortable about how someone might judge you. That's purely up to you to kind of decide, how you're feeling. All right, so as Pam said earlier, we never need to provide personal details around it, just how it's going to impact your work as well. And if you're feeling really nervous about it, start practicing, and that's exactly what we're going to do today with some scripts for you to practice that, to make you feel more confident. Right, and who you should talk to. So this is a good one as well. Often, if you've been offered a job, the person who rings you to offer the job might not be the right person for you to disclose to then and there. It could be, the receptionist or the HR person who isn't actually, capable of making those adjustments. So it's really important that you find out, is it going to be the person who's directly supervising you that can make those adjustments, or is it the actual general manager that has to make those decisions? So I think it's really important that you suss out with the environment who the person is best to talk to, and then even just choosing, feeling whether that person has got the experience to understand, what workplace adjustments are. That just really have to go with the feel about who you should talk to. And lastly, is that person someone that you feel confident that are going to respect, the details that you're sharing with them. So it is, again, it's a personal choice, and it's kind of getting the feel of who the right person in the right organisation might be. If it's a very small business and you're only working with a sole trader, obviously you don't have a lot of choice. You need to disclose to that person. But in a bigger organisation, there's probably going to be a range of people that you might be the right person. So best to ask a few questions first. So again, what I've covered there is, does that person, when we say power, does that person actually have the ability to put those workplace adjustments in for you that are required? And are they the person who makes the decisions around hiring and promoting people in the organisation? So get the feel of who the right person within that particular organisation is. Timing. Okay, so again, this is about, finding out whether it's the right time, and Pam's going to elaborate on that for you.
You could have kept going there, Andy. That's all right. I didn't mind. I was just...
It's your show.
So it's always, obviously, like, do you want to, talk about it in a private, confidential place? So somewhere within, less hearing range of other work colleagues. That's entirely up to you. Do you also make sure you're allowing enough time to discuss and talk through, what sort of, questions, suggestions or concerns your employer may have, and also, what types of adjustments, etc., that you may need. So it's important that you do, make sure that you do have enough time to talk to the person about your situation. But it's certainly up to you whether you broadcast it out or you just speak to someone face to face. and you know, just make sure that they're not busy, make an appointment with them, etc., etc. So really just common sense, and whatever's going to make you feel the most comfortable as well. Oh.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about, you know, the script, and we've actually in the, we're going to go through it in a moment, but in the chat box, I've actually put the PDF that you can download there. But it's really important to, you know, to have a bit of a practice run. So to having a script, that the things that you might say, and you could practice it with people that you're feeling really confident with, friends or a mentor, or even just practicing in the mirror at home. You know, it really gives you that confidence that you can articulate what you're going to need. So it's really important for you to be able to to discuss the things that are going to impact your work. So rather than just sort of going in unpracticed, it's really easy to gain that confidence. And so we're going to run through how you can do that.
Yeah, and some situations may change, obviously, like how you're actually, like, it's not going to be like robotic that you're going to go in and just, you know, talk to your script, but it's really, you know, about just setting it in your mind on, okay, this is what I can say, and this is how I can say it.
So, you know, a disclosure script is it's really a summary of how your disability might impact on your job, and it sets out what reasonable adjustments that you might need. And of course, you know, some of those might be very similar to adjustments that you might be having while you're studying as well. So it's really important that you're able to articulate those to the employers, that what you need, rather than just going in and saying this is my disability. But you need to go in, you know, proactively, pro-armed, you know, and let them know. So the worksheet really helps you to develop self-advocacy skills, which then creates confidence. Okay, so we're going to go through the script, and again, we're coming from that strength-based model, where you can demonstrate to employers, you know, that your disability won't impact your performance because you've got all these strategies that you've learned through your life. All right, so when we look at the script here, so this is point one, is the first point is that you're going to be able to describe your disability in a way that other people can understand. So you don't need to go into a lot of detail, and you certainly don't need to go into personal detail. You just need to give a short description of your disability and how it might impact. So the point two is to really think then about your key strengths and abilities. So again, from that strength-based model, what are the great things about you that you're going to be able to do, and how they relate to the actual job that you're applying for. Point three is what aspects of the work environment or tasks might you find difficult, all right, to manage, and why. So giving them some information about, you know, why you might not be able to do it. If it's, you know, it's something that needs a reasonable adjustment around assistive technology, you might just explain, you know, that you mightn't be able to do this particular task, and this is why you can't do it. But then point four bangs at home gives you all those positive solutions around reasonable adjustments that you might need, so that you will be able to complete those tasks. All right, so you need to include their strategies and tools that you might be able to use to adjust things, as we talked about assistive technology, or about just, you know, small tweaks to the environment, or it could be as simple as some checklists around, you know, the process of doing things. So when you see the script, it sort of, you know, lays it out. So, you know, this is kind of, I'm just going to run through, like, you know, I don't anticipate any problems with the ability to undertake this position. But as you can see, I have, and this is where, bang, you know, list all your qualifications in there. Next is, you know, I would like to mention, and that's where you add the point one. So that's a short little summary of, you know, what your disability is. And then point two is you need to add in there the point two is, all right? So then the next one is I'm more than capable of fulfilling the role. And then that's where you add in there that, you know, these are the things that, you know, the tasks that I can do. And point four, boop, these are some examples and strategies of how I can do it. So as Pam said, you know, we don't want it to be robotic, but this is really good for you to practice just how you might have those conversations. And, you know, it just lays it out so that you're not just, you know, telling them that you have a disability and then they're going, oh God, they're not going to be able to do the job. You've answered all those questions that are going through their mind as you're saying that to them, because you're not giving them the chance to think, oh, that, you know, this person can't do the job, because you're really clearly explaining that you're still able to do the job. You're just going to need a few little tweaks to the environment. And you know that that works because these are the strategies. So that's a self-determined person. You know, you're punching home, I really can do the job and I know how to do it. All right, so you need to remember that your decision to disclose is based and make change to a person. So you might choose initially and think, I actually don't need any reasonable adjustments in the workplace, but you know, situations can change, and you know, things might get worse for you, or you might have thought that you could do the job without those adjustments, and you were worried about people making those judgments, and then you've started working and you've realized they're a great bunch of people and they really understand you, and it might be a time that you're feeling really comfortable to go, actually there's something now I'd like to, I'd like to talk about, because I really think I'm going to be able to do the job better if I have these little adjustments changed. So it's really up to you along as things, as things may go in the workplace. Right, we're going to share you some disclosure resources.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. Yeah, so we've just compiled a few different resources here that are available to give you more examples and information about sharing your disability through the different stages of the employment process. And there's also information that is available on some of these websites for employers about reasonable adjustments, and there could be financial support for them as well. So the first website here, hosted by the University of Western Sydney, I'm not sure if anyone's been onto this website. It's currently being reviewed. Andrea and myself have been working with a student from Western Sydney, and we're actually reviewing and going to redesign this website. But at the moment, there's lots of information on there, and it addresses, challenges for people with disabilities, employers, and educators. So there's resources relating to disclosure of disability on this website. It's got lots of information about options and pathways that people can use, and also relevant to not only just employment but studying as well. So it's for the workplace and the education environment. Great Australia. Great Australia has some information on the pros and cons of disclosing your disability, and it also has information about workplace adjustments. What are they? So that can give you a fair more idea of what are some of the workplace adjustments in a work environment that you could look at. And with Great Australia, it does offer like internships and graduate employment opportunities on their site as well. So it's a great site. I really like getting onto there and having a look at what's current and what's going on.
Job access. So this is a really great website to go and have a look at, and also it's really good to have a look at both tabs. There's a tab there you can see it says access for people with disability. And also it says access for employers. So if you were to start a job with an organisation who perhaps weren't, up to date with reasonable adjustments, and this is an awesome website to also direct, a future employer to, because it gives you all the information about how to adjust the workplace, and also there's money there for them to do it, so they'll be able to access. But for yourselves, also go and familiarise it there. There's great little videos. There's some really good little case studies of other people that have shared their experience about the process as well. So spend some time looking at that. Yep, it gives you financial help in the changing workplace. So sometimes employers aren't aware that this is there. So it's really important that as part of your your disclosure conversation is to say there's some great resources out there that I can direct you to.
And Victorian, and I realise some of you may not be from Victoria, but Victoria has an Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commission website that can protect you against workplaces that are often designed, to be inclusive for people with disabilities. So there's lots of valuable information on this website. And once again, we do have the Australian Human Rights Commission as well, which has a lot of great information on their website. Fair Work Ombudsman, always important to refer back to this website if you are feeling discriminated against or unsure about your pay or your award, what award you're under. Yeah, so it's really important that if you do have any problems in the workplace, that you do have a look at this website and just see if there's someone you can contact, which I believe you can put in requests through the website. So,
and of course it's anonymous too initially when you're first having those conversations. If you're feeling worried, it's purely that anonymous conversation.
Yeah, so somewhere to go outside of the workplace if you're not feeling sure about approaching your own employer.
And there's a little clip there. I believe we're unable to play it due to the sound today, but this is a really good one, just directing you back again to that job access website. There's some really good clips. And this one does give you a really good snapshot of a whole bunch of people talking about when they chose to disclose and why they did and what they disclosed. So, be proactive and get out there and research all of those resources so that you can make that really informed choice around, whether it's the right thing for you or not.
Thanks, Sandy. So that's about all today.